Do you think that people judge other people's food choices? Because that's a good one to understand. Because if you know this, it won't bother you. You are listening to the Undieted Podcast, real talk about food, body image, and breaking free from diet culture so that you can live a life on your terms. A quick heads up before we begin, this episode may include discussions around emotional eating, body image, and mental health. If these topics feel sensitive to you right now, please take care and skip or pause as needed. All right, let's dive in. Welcome back to the Undieted Podcast. You're here with Melissa
And Rebecca.
and this week we are talking about something super relevant. If you've ever stared at a restaurant menu and have felt anxiety or worried about what would be a good meal to order, this episode is definitely for you, especially with summer around the corner. There's going to be a lot more patio outings, restaurant outings, and this episode is geared to help you make decisions, help ease the mental aspect of it, and really learn how to stick to your journey and build that lifestyle.
With all that, I think that's one thing that a lot of our listeners can connect with. Because I know last time in our last episode, we did speak about how the menus in Canada, unfortunately, tend to have caloric intakes beside the items, right? But a lot of people tend to research in advance where they're going to go eat. And there's a lot of, stress related to that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a fan of the calories just because I personally haven't ordered things because I saw, something said 700 calories. I'm like, holy smokes, I don't want to eat 700 calories right now. Or, so I think it's better not to know and just to enjoy your meal and understand that that one meal is not going to make a difference because it's really to learn and know, stamp this into your brain that it's whatever you do 80% of the time that's really going to carry you through. And it's also how you handle your setbacks, and not that eating over calories is a setback, but it's your mental perception around it. So if you eat a meal thinking this was way over the calories, and then you think, oh, now I have to make sure I got to exercise tomorrow, got to eat less tomorrow, you just put that meal behind you and you move on to your next meal, your next day, without thinking about it. And that's going to take practice and
Yeah.
habit change. So you're going to have to work at it and then it'll happen naturally. I promise you. I'm at that point, right? Where I eat, if I go, fast food or something, I don't even think about it. I eat with my kids, I enjoy it, and I just
We want our listeners to get to that point too, because I know that as someone progresses with their mental health and they want to, find more freedom, see their friends, do outings, I know that eating out is one of those things that can be very anxiety provoking.
yeah. And it's really too bad that it has such a mental chokehold on us, food. If you look at other countries, the West compared to a third world country, they're lacking a lot, right? So when they have their meals, it's different. Here we have a lot of choice. Have, what's the word I'm looking for? Meaning the ability to go eat out and things like that. So it's very easy in the society to over consume food. We've created a lot of gatherings at restaurants, gatherings at people's house that include food, right? Like even when I have company over, it's kind of a staple to put a spread out, right? And that's so food is a big part of the culture in the West, and it's just navigating that um and dealing with the underlining issues with your mental health that has in relation to food.
Exactly. And food has it has a part in social belonging, right? And how we interact with our family and friends.
Admission I'll make, even before this calorie, it's not here in the US, I haven't seen it, but before they added the calories, as Rebecca was mentioning, I was guilty of Googling, trying to find out how many calories were in the meal I wanted to eat at the restaurant.
Hmm.
And this is why I love my magic plate method so darn much, because it really helps you make that choice at the restaurant. And it doesn't really matter how many calories there are. And our portions are larger. So it's okay to, when you understand your fullness cue, to stop and take the rest home. I went out with some women last week, and 3 out of the 7 of us, they took half home. It's just too much. You don't have to eat everything on your plate,
Exactly.
and you have a second meal out of that.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I mean, there's a lot of tips in this episode we could provide to help free you from that expectation or those plannings around eating out.
Yep. Because we know that a lot of women feel out of control when eating out. There's pressure to make the right decision. You
Yeah.
fear judgment that the people at the table are going to say, look what she's eating, or this, that,
Mhm.
so that's the fear of judgment. And then trying to
Yeah.
be perfect, trying to pick the perfect thing. And when women try to pick the perfect thing, they gravitate towards salads,
Oh man,
and
salad.
oftentimes salad contains more calories and it'll won't leave you satisfied as much as a full plate of, I don't know, the salmon, broccoli, rice,
Yeah.
fish tacos, anything else, right? So, and sometimes the magic plate won't always apply. For example, there's a Mexican restaurant that I love near my house, and we go there once in a while. And I order nachos. We'll have tacos sometimes. We have street corn, and to be honest, I don't sit there trying to make that into a magic plate. I just order what I enjoy. I just make sure not to overeat, right? Like I eat until I'm full and then I stop.
Yes.
So,
And, like that's where it's like, we're also trying to break free from that all or nothing mindset too, right? Like the good or bad. I have to do things this way. I have to do it that way. We just want you to enjoy the moment, practice mindfulness, and just enjoy the moment, right?
uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yep. And you don't want to think that you ruined your whole day because you went out to eat. I had a client, we worked together for 9 months. Now she's in maintenance, in my maintenance program. But when she started with me, I really look at your lifestyle. She was like, we eat out every Friday. That was a thing they did. Every Friday, the adults went out. And she always thought that in order to lose weight, she would have to stop that. But instead, I helped her with her restaurant choices and that mindset around eating what you enjoy that night. Even if you add a glass of wine, it's fine, and you move on to Saturday,
Yeah.
and not to withhold calories the whole day until that dinner at the restaurant. Because here's what happens when you withhold your calories all day long. You're
Yeah.
going to be hungrier by the time you eat. You're going to eat more at the restaurant. And the example I gave before about the women that brought home half their meal, you won't
Yeah.
be able to do that. So if you eat regularly throughout the day, when it comes to dinner time, you'll know when you're full and you'll be able to bring the rest of the food home if it is a large portion here. So it's important to know that you can create a healthy lifestyle with your personal life. And I don't want you to sacrifice or to stop doing things with people. And this is why I'm not for calorie counting, giving a specific meal plan, giving a specific workout plan, because it's important that you build a life that's customized to you and that you can sustain. So, seeing a sample of a meal plan, for example, just to see what nutrient dense foods look like without any specific, calories or that, is good for when you're learning for women that don't really cook at home and they want to learn to prepare more meals at home. But with all that to say is that she was someone who this was important, that she maintained this a social event, and I showed her how to make it work, and she lost 15 pounds in the first 6 months.
Yay.
So, just making small changes.
And she also got to enjoy the social aspect of it too, right?
Exactly. And that's what we live for. And
Yeah.
honestly, when we deprive ourselves of that stuff, believe it or not, it causes cravings, causes you to eat
Yeah.
foods you don't want because it stresses you out. And what happens as we age is we become less tolerant to manage our stress. And this is why losing weight as a mom, so over 35, is different than
Yeah.
when you lost weight if you ever had to try to lose weight in your 20s, or why you maybe feel like it was easier when you were younger than it was now. We have a lot, so it's just a different strategy, and once you're aware, it's you can make huge transformations in your life without feeling like you're sacrificing.
And think of it this way, from that mental health perspective, you're also lessening any like depressive episodes, anxiety episodes. Overall, it's like a mind and body kind of connection, right?
And you don't want to be the one. And I used to do this. Okay. So, this, what we're talking about today, I went through this. This was part of my journey where I would get invited out and I didn't want to go. And remember that story. If you have been listening to our podcast, I mentioned in one of our episodes that I witnessed someone at someone's house. They ordered like pizza and wings or something. And that individual just sat on the couch and wasn't. And I asked, why aren't you? I don't know how to track it.
Okay. And so that also reflects back to that even trying to calorie count an experience, trying to calorie count even, enjoying a meal with your family or friends, that in itself, it's not possible, right? And we have to let go of that expectation that
Yep.
that is something that you have to do.
I wanted to talk about the top struggles that women face when eating out. So
Mhm.
you can know that we understand you and if you relate to this, but you fear that you're going to lose control.
Yes.
And when we talk about, mindful life, mindful eating, it really is about letting go of control.
Yes.
And this is something that's very common in women is wanting to control everything, even our food. Sometimes that can be the one thing that's keeping us stuck. So, guilt about making the unhealthy choice at the restaurant,
Yes.
pressure to eat perfectly in front of others. You don't want
Yeah.
to be judged. Sometimes you may feel like the burger and fries, but a lot of women have admitted to me they've ordered burger and salad so that they look healthier to the people they're with.
Man, which I think this is like a side note. If you fear eating in front of a specific person due to judgment, maybe question going with that person to the restaurant. I'm
That's
gonna be the
right.
bad guy here. I'm gonna be the person to say that.
Yeah, and then there's the
Yeah.
overthinking the menu, and then the all or nothing thinking, not knowing if you can trust your hunger and fullness cues. So you want to order at the restaurant what you're hungry for, and you want to be able to assess that, and that is a learned behavior, but you can learn it. Right? Emotional eating triggers. So, this is something that's
Yes.
not really talked about, but introverts have anxiety being out and around people,
Yeah.
and sometimes I've had people say that they didn't want to just bump into anybody they went to high school with. Like, that's how far it goes. And
Yes.
when you're out and you get that kind of trigger, it can cause you to overeat in the restaurant. And then you feel guilty. And then that cycle kind of starts. So these are things just to be aware of. Or they order something extremely comforting to calm that
Yeah. Of
emotional response that they're having. And then
course.
the last one is the fear of gaining weight. I can't tell you how many times I've heard from people that, oh, I gained 2 pounds after I ate out last night. Doesn't happen that fast.
Exactly.
You know,
Exactly.
food in a restaurant can be higher in sodium. Therefore, if you go so the best thing to do is not to weigh yourself after you've eaten out, okay? No point. But the reason why the scale goes up is because of water retention. And if you weigh yourself 3 days later or 2 days later, you will notice that the weight has gone back down. So that's a temporary. There are so many factors that play into the weight when you actually step on the scale that don't actually have to do with body fat loss. And that's
Yeah.
why you see it on social media all the time. I have my own pictures where there's maybe 3 pounds difference between the two pictures, but I look much leaner in the other one, in the one that's 2 pounds more than the original one,
Okay. Yeah.
because body fat, and if you're training, you're building muscle. So no.
No, exactly.
Let's talk about reframing these mindset and these fears that you have when you go to a restaurant. So knowing that, that restaurant meals are not a test, they're part of your life, okay?
Yes.
Feeling guilty, it doesn't make a meal healthier if you
And
feel
it won't
guilty over you ate it, right?
the guilt is not also gonna let you live a intuitive eating life either.
Mhm. Eating out can be about pleasure and socializing and having a good time. And I think when you let go of all these things we mentioned before, practice the next time that you go out. And just releasing the idea that eating clean or perfect makes us worthy. I don't even like the term eating clean because you can't eat dirty.
I love that.
So,
Eating clean is such a vague term in itself that it's not possible.
yeah.
Make any sense.
You want to have a good balance, and balance includes restaurant meals, eating out. So eating clean, I mean, I remember that was huge in my early 20s. There was a whole book series
Yes,
on
I
clean
recall.
eating, and everyone loved it. And I mean, it really is just, I guess, eating healthier. But I find with clean eating, they remove a lot of the fun ingredients in foods. So
Yeah.
you end up eating bland, tasteless, just salt and pepper. And if you come from any kind of culture background, that's just not our thing.
Agreed. And I think that also, eating bland doesn't make us perfect either. So it's like a double-edged sword too.
Yeah. Have some statements and affirmation options for you. So, to reframe these fears, you're going to say, this one meal, it's not a make it or break it moment.
Yes.
Okay. Number two, I can trust my body to navigate variety and flexibility. Life
Yeah.
is about flexibility. So, it's important that you embark on that.
And one note for that is that if you notice you're into that disordered eating, variety can be scary. So taking that challenge to having variety is a good thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the third one for the reframe is all foods can fit even if I don't cook them myself. So I love cooking. I didn't realize how many people don't like being in the kitchen until I started coaching women who don't want to cook. So I try to incorporate some fun, simple meals. The grocery stores do a really good job of prepping vegetables and stuff, which make it super easy for that woman who doesn't care to be in the kitchen that much.
Yeah, and the thing I learned as a mom is that they're in the frozen section, they also prepare frozen pre-cut veggies and ingredients that you need. And just pop it into the stove or whatever you need to do,
Yeah,
and it saves you work. So
yeah. Okay, and here's some affirmation options that you should take notes of. I deserve to enjoy food without guilt. This is one that's super powerful that I used on myself all the time to stop the food noise and the guilt. My body knows how to process the meal.
yes,
Okay.
trusting our inner self and our body to know what to do in the moment.
I can listen to my hunger, not my inner food critic. That's the inner voice that makes this good or bad food list.
Yes. And it's important also to have these affirmations nearby if you go to a restaurant, you're feeling overwhelmed in the moment, looking at these affirmations on your phone, keeping it on your notes app if you have an iPhone, allowing yourself just to remind yourself of these things, right? It's good to have it in front of us, especially when we're overwhelmed in the moment. We don't know what to do. We may feel stuck, right?
Clients that you have in therapy, what kind of struggles do you see with them facing restaurant menus and eating out?
The first thing that always comes up is, going to a restaurant and then being preoccupied with, like if we're gonna order a preset like menu or we're gonna order like a preset like meal with entrees and appetizers and such, like worrying about the number attached to those. Another thing too that a lot of people bring up is desserts at meals where they're going out to. And if it's a special occasion like a birthday with cake, right? That preoccupation with that fear of having that slice of cake in front of family, right? The other thing too that happens, unfortunately, and it's sad that some of my clients go through this, is that they have family members that they end up going with for dinner, going out, and they are predicting those family members will be judgmental of what they get at the restaurant, and them having to almost prepare for that emotional reaction. Which goes back to what I was saying earlier in the episode. You don't have to go out with people that you feel uncomfortable with.
And that's part of boundary setting for
Yes.
yourself. And so many of us are people pleasers or we don't want to hurt someone's feelings.
We plan around setting those boundaries with the people. We also plan around challenging and reframing the all or nothing thinking that comes with, eating out, right? Like if they really want a burger, but they don't want to eat like this number of calories, working on cognitive behavior therapy to almost reframe that, right? And say, you're allowed to enjoy the burger. How could we change that viewpoint of that number, right? Because again, a reminder for the listeners is we're in Canada, so unfortunately, calories are right in front of the item.
Too
So
bad.
I know, I know.
I
But
mean, I love hearing about the certain stories you can share with your clients. I mean, I studied psychology in university and I never became a therapist, but I love this and I love understanding how, the mind works in other people and the struggles that they face. And I deal with this kind of stuff to a certain level, whatever's in my scope of practice as a nutrition and fitness coach too. It's a lot of mindset work.
it really is. And noticing how those emotions and thoughts also implicate our behavior, right? How it impacts our behavior, how we approach things, and how we might approach people we care about, right? So,
So, why do you think that people judge other people's food choices? Because that's a good one to understand. Because if you know this, it won't bother you.
this is a surprise one, but you could say it's projection. The person might be upset that they can't have the thing, so they want to make you feel bad for having the thing they actually want. Number two, it's people that might have that old school mentality regarding good and bad food,
Carbs.
carbs, grease, even french fries, which I mean, come on, leave french fries alone. And the third thing as well is that, going out with people that might be stuck in that diet mindset also can cause that judgment to occur, right? But at the same time, as we've stated, that diets don't end up working, right? So be mindful of the people you do go out with and if they have any of these judgments or preconceived notions of food, how you could challenge that as well.
I have conversations with family members all the time, friends, sometimes people online where they're always asking about fruit. And what's scary too about the online space, other creators, there are so many people spreading false information like cutting out dairy. There's this video I saw where the woman was going through the grocery store naming the three foods that you should never have.
Yeah.
And dairy was one of them.
Oh,
And, that's a source of protein. And unless you're lactose intolerant, that is the only time you would really avoid it. But there is no reason. There's a lot of buzzwords that are being created right now on social media. One, to sell products in MLM for MLM businesses. And it's sad because these people grow a following, they
yeah.
start to get trusted, and then whatever they say, their followers are just like, yeah, Mimi, I saw a post about a morning drink that'll help your cortisol,
Oh,
and
man.
comment the word need, and there were 72 words need. And there is no drink that you can have that'll lower your cortisol.
No way. Yeah.
There is no pill or medication that'll cause weight loss. Okay, it's all a mind thing because with the medication in particular, when they get on this medication, it's like their brain is told to make healthier choices. So when people take this weight loss medication, they are also changing their eating habits. They're not continuing the way they were and then taking the injection. So why don't you just do all those changes without the injection? They
Yeah.
don't realize that is that they're drastically changing their movement, the way they're eating, and then they're taking the shot and saying that it's all attributed to the shot. No, it's the,
No.
the lifestyle changes that you've made, that this has subconsciously brainwashed you, what have you. But there was
Yeah.
another example, cortisol, inflammation.
Oh, no.
This is why I do a food sensitivity testing, because foods that you eat can cause inflammation response in your body. So
Mm.
say you have an intolerance to gluten and you it causes inflammation. Do you really think mixing a powder in water is going to stop that? No, you're going to have to stop eating the gluten. You
Man,
know
I've
what
seen.
I mean? So
Yeah,
these
I
people
do.
are wasting their money on supplements and products that they don't need. And they think
Exactly.
that they can do everything else the same, but take this one supplement and everything will be fine. And I had this conversation with my GP back in Canada one time where I said, when you tell a patient that they have high blood pressure or diabetes, do you explore lifestyle changes?
Let me guess, they probably say no.
She said that the patients say, if I take this metformin, Can I stay the same? Can I do nothing else? So really
Ah,
there's a culture of people don't want to change. They don't want to give up
yes.
things, but because they attach happiness to it, but they don't realize that with a lifestyle change, you can create new happiness, new just because I mean, I used to eat a whole row of Oreos, okay? And that used to make me happy at the time.
Delicious.
And now when I make my nice cream with my banana and my scoop of protein, and I even add some walnuts in there and all kind of good stuff that I love, fruit, that makes me happy now. It
Yeah,
literally does. So you just have to find other things that replace the
yes.
old you. But again, so the social media, it's so terrifying. And I'm so
Yes.
tempted. I just never wanted to be that creator that critiques other people's stuff, pull their things, and because that can start a content creator war that I don't want to be pulled into.
I think that's good. You're not out for the drama,
I
right?
think it's better if I just educate and speak on the fact that this is happening on social media. And then when they encounter those accounts, they hear my voice in their head instead of pulling
Yeah.
someone. A lot of people do that for views and clicks. And I wouldn't want it done to me. So I don't want to
Of
do it to
course.
another creator. But it happens. And they're going around the grocery stores with all kind of baloney.
No, and yet, Melissa, I hated being on that side of TikTok. I despised it, and I was, like, trying to find a way to get off of it. The people that were like, "Guess what? I'm going to a grocery store, I'm gonna critique this item and say it's gonna cause you cancer, or it's gonna cause you liver failure," or some bullshit, right? And so
Followers will message me on my DMs on Instagram asking me questions. And based on the question, I know which video they saw.
oh,
And I
man,
said, "Oh, did you see this on so and so's account?" Yes. I said, "Unfollow, block, don't watch any more of their videos."
yeah.
Or
That
follow and block me. You got to pick.
well, the thing to keep in mind is, like, these people are using fear to get attention, and that is not the right way, that's not even the right way to deliver education. You can't just fear your audience into believing that, an item causes cancer when it actually doesn't, right?
That's
So
right, and this trend with bunless burgers, to be honest, I enjoy bunless burgers sometimes. I love eating it like I pile it high and I cut it with a knife and fork. Sometimes that's how I like to enjoy it, but I also do eat it in a bun. And I remember being out and the person I was with was like, "You're eating it with the bun?" And I'm like, "Yeah." And I said, "Why are you asking?" "Well, by the way you look, I didn't think you ate burgers with buns."
that's a weird thing to
You know
say.
what I mean? So these
Uh,
things teach me what goes on in people's minds. It's wild.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's where, in saying this, you are allowed to enjoy food in what way you want. We're trying to remove that judgment away from your mind so you can freely decide, how will I enjoy my meal going out with my friends and family, right? Because let's
Exactly.
be real, the economy is expensive. Going out to eat is a luxury at this time.
It's not that you say you can't go out, but start making foods you love at home too, because you can
Yeah.
control the ingredients and you can control the sodium more
Yeah.
when you make it at home. And I think people that don't like cooking, it's because they don't know how, or when they have in the past, they don't like how they made it or what it tasted like, or they felt like they failed at making it. I think if you practice and you do really well, and you start to see your physical and mental results, you're going
Yeah.
to love it more.
I think so too.
Before we wrap up, we'll cover over what to do. Are feeling anxious about going out is just taking time to breathe, normalizing that it's okay to go out, eat slowly so that you know when to stop.
Yes.
Okay. Even if you're healing your relationship with food, discomfort still shows up.
And it's okay to notice that discomfort and not allow it to take over.
It'll show up for a long time. It showed up for me for years and it probably still does. But what happens is it shows up less and less and less as time goes by. Okay.
And also, going back to affirmations, keep affirmations with you close by. If it's like a note in your purse or if it's on your phone, in the notes app, and have that on hand so that you could also get out of that anxiety cycle if it does occur, right?
Mhm.
and if you're feeling emotions of guilt and shame.
And what's really important that I talk about with all my clients is really practicing that woman you want to become. So ask yourself, what would it feel like walking into a restaurant and not obsessing over the meal I'm about to have, not obsessing over the menu? And I want you to close your eyes and think about it and really trap that feeling and walk into your social event with that feeling about what it would feel like not to feel that way. It's important that you continue to practice self compassion because otherwise you tear yourself apart. And it's sad to say, but we get bullied the most by ourselves.
And at the end of the day, we're our own worst enemy, which is so sad to say.
Is there anything else you'd like to share before we wrap up?
I'll say this is that I want you also to keep in mind, who are the people I'm going out to eat with? Will they be judgmental? If the answer is yes, can you set boundaries with that person? Is it possible? And if not, then it may be questioning, if I'm going to go eat out and have a great time, who can I bring with me that will bring me up, not down?
And know that when you're transforming, you're changing your life, sometimes you leave people behind. And that's the hardest part for people to realize that you can't take everyone with you. It doesn't make you better than them. It's just they're not on the same journey as you. And you can't, this happens in relationships, it happens with everything. Sometimes you can't be friends with someone forever. Does it mean
Yeah.
you stop talking to them? No, but you want to surround yourself with people that are supportive, that have the best interest for you, and that want to see you happy.
Yes, exactly. Having those people with you will help you in this journey and help you to, better frame your own health journey in the way you want it.
So that's all for today. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us on our social media handles, and we'll see you next time. Bye.